Hello and welcome to the 167th episode of the Brian Hornback Experience from right here in the Old Forge Distilling Podcast Studio. So, I haven't been on here just to talk about politics from my perspective in a while. Had some interviews, got some more interviews coming up sometime before early vote, which is July the 12th. So probably look for some stuff the week of July the 8th, 9th, 10th, somewhere in that neighborhood for a couple of more interviews. And then anybody else that pops up that wants to do an interview, we'll get them in that week. Really want to talk about the fact that here the last week of June, what's happening is August the 1st, Thursday, August the 1st, is the county general and the state and federal primary elections. So, when you go to vote on Thursday, August 1st, or you can begin early voting July the 12th through the 27th, there's been some changes to some early vote locations. Let me give you the changes, the three changes, okay? So, up in the Gibbs community, last time they tried voting at Clear Springs Baptist Church, they're now going to vote at the Gibbs Rueton Center, which is a little bit further north of Gibbs High School. There on Washington Pike. So Gibbs Rueton Center. Carter Senior Center, there's something going on with the building there or some construction around the Carter Senior Center. They've always voted there. They're going to be voting this time during early vote at Carter Elementary School on Straw Plains Pike. Then you have the Farragut Town Hall's closed for the renovation, remodel that they're doing at the Farragut Town Hall. So they had moved over to the West Knox or the Farragut Senior Center. They're not going to be there this time. They're going to move up to the Knox County Election Commission office, which is where the old Strang Senior Center was. If you're familiar with the area between, on Long Kingston Pike, between Pellissippi Parkway and Lovell Road, it's about halfway in the middle. If you're headed west away from Pellissippi Parkway, if you've gone to Fuji, which is the old Dairy Queen, you've gone too far, you need to circle back. It's behind the Synergy Car Wash. So parking could be as tricky as it was at the West Knox Senior Center, but just bear with them. Downtown West is still open. New Harvest Park still open. Expo Center. All the others are still open. Those are the three main changes. I want to talk to you, though, about now that we're gearing up here and we're getting ready to start voting again, there's a lot of brouhaha among at least one race, potentially two, that's causing some Republicans to not be happy. And best I can figure it is really centered on the 3rd District school board race. Angie Goethert won that Republican primary convincingly. Her opponent, who was endorsed by the conservatives and the Moms for Liberty group, has really gone to Facebook, really promoting the Democrat in that race. It's really interesting because when you think about it, this is a gentleman who portrays himself as a conservative, as a Republican, and there's really, I'm not disputing that he's a Republican or a conservative, but for him to be advocating for the election of the Democrat, who, if you look at some Facebook screenshots from Angie Goethert's Democrat opponent, clearly is not anywhere close to conservative or Republican values. She's a retired teacher, but not anywhere close to what Moms for Liberty have advocated on banning textbooks, or any of the conservative things that have been going on with the school board. The school board is in a really tight spot right now on a 5-4 spot as far as some of those partisan issues, and so it's really kind of critical that the Republican Party takes back the 3rd District School Board seat. Daniel Watson was elected 4 years ago. Well, 3 years and 3/4 of a year ago. In ousting Tony Norman, Watson never portrayed himself to be conservative, never portrayed himself to be a Republican, but really does align with the more progressive, the more liberal wing of the school board. And so for Angie Gothert to win this race would really strengthen the Republican Party and the conservative cause. And so it's really interesting that her opponent has really gone out there, at least on Facebook. It's a guy who's talked about running for Republican Party chairman. Now he says on Facebook that he's not going to do that he's not going to run for anything. But clearly has aligned himself with someone polar opposite of what he said. Now, he says that he's the conservative, that he's the Republican, and Angie's not. Back this year, back in December, obviously, I serve the Tennessee Republican Party on the state executive committee as the committee man for District 6. That's the district that runs from Halls all the way down toward Bluegrass and Concord. Not Bluegrass, but Concord. And so, as we geared up back in December, as people began picking up petitions in October, I would go about gathering up the voting records of every single person that was picking up a petition, because I knew that there was a potential that people could be challenged for whether they're bona fide Republican or not. And let's just go back and look at that. The state party passed some guidelines that said you need to be 3 out of the last 4 state or federal primaries. So in relation to the March 2024 primary election, you needed to have voted in 3 of these 4. August 2nd, 2018, March 3rd, 2020, August 6th, 2020, August 4th, 2022. Now, granted, since the primary, there will have been the March 5th, 2024, but we're having to approve people if they're challenged on 3 out of 4 of the last 4. So we would have been making this decision in December because the filing deadline was in December. And so it had to be 3 of those 4. Angie Gothert's opponent had voted in, according to the Knox County Election Commission voting record, had voted in 3 out of 4, right there, 3 out of 4. He had voted Republican in the he voted in, hold on. Actually, he'd only voted in 2 out of 4. I had marked him for voting in the March 2018, but that one doesn't count. So he actually had only voted in 2 out of 4, her Republican opponent. He had voted, when I pulled this, he voted in the August 2020 election, and he voted in the August of 2022 election. So in fact, he was only 2 of 4. Angie Gothert was just the same as her opponent. She was 2 out of 4. She had voted in the, no, she was 3 out of 4. She voted in the August 2018, the one that her opponent had missed, and she voted in the August 2020, and she voted in the August 2022. So she was, in fact, 3 out of 4. So Angie Gothert was the Republican, the conservative choice. So the district got it right. Her opponent was a 2 out of 4, and she was a 3 out of 4, according to the Election Commission record that I obtained from the Election Commission. And so, you know, there's been some discussion about, well, you know, the Republican Party needs to do a better job of vetting these candidates. I don't disagree with that, but I do want to say that there are three state districts that you have state executive committee members that represent Knox County. You have the 5th district, which is Lieutenant Governor Randy McNally's district. That's Anderson County Mayor Terry Frank and former Knox County Sheriff Tim Hutchison. In District 6, you have Jane Chedester, the female, and myself, the male, representing State Senate District 6. And then you have in State Senate District 7, which is Senator Richard Briggs' district, you have Karen Brown, the female, the committee woman, and you have Kent Morrell, the committee man. Now, I told those others that I was going to pull the voting records of these folks, and I was going to check them, and so I had done that. Toward the December deadline, only one challenge was made, and that was to the candidacy of Garrett Holt. There's actually 2 districts that encompass the 4th Commission District, so that included the man and woman from District 7 and the man and woman from District 6. Myself and the committee woman from my district met with the individual that filed the 5 complaints on that candidate, and we met with him for over an hour, understanding his issue, explaining both. She and I explained our position and what we had seen, and the fact that this guy had run as a Republican on a Republican ticket in the city of Knoxville, had Republican support, and then when it came down to actually having the vote, the state chairman polled the 4 of us, and of course the state chairman gets a vote as well. The vote was 4 to keep the candidate on the ballot, and only 1 to remove the candidate from the ballot. And that candidate won with more than 60% of the vote, as I recall, back in March, and is the Republican nominee for county commission in his district. I think what's interesting is that you have Republican clubs in Knox County, right? I'm president of the Center City Conservatives Republican Club. And all these clubs operate as their own entity. But the Republican clubs really kind of try to work with the Republican Party. But then there's been a lot of conservative groups that have popped up in commission districts. I know that this year those conservative groups put out a 9-page survey to the candidates that they endorsed, that they helped. And I think the most interesting thing is on each page, there's a signature for the candidate to sign that they confirm that they agree with the above answers. You see that? Another signature line there on page 2. And then we'll just go on down to page 9. There's another signature line that you agree with the answers. So that's on all 9 pages. You know, this... Oh, hold on. Let me go. I think it's on page 7. On page 7, there's a question It's the last question on page 7 of this 2024 candidate survey. Would you agree to never support an opponent of a Republican-nominated candidate? Would you agree to never support an opponent of a Republican-nominated candidate? So what that means is, if you're in District 5 and you had 5 candidates that were vying for the Republican nomination for county commission, then will you agree that if that you will not support the Democrat in the 9th district? That would have been the independent, because there's an independent and a Democrat running against the Republican nominee in the 9th. And so presumably Mr. Daspit, I'm assuming that, I don't know for a fact that he was necessarily endorsed by one of the conservative clubs, but clearly having been the featured speaker at Knox for Liberty, having been supported by the Moms for Liberty, I would presume to believe that he was supported by some conservative clubs. And if he was, the question would be, and of course, no one can compel these groups to turn over someone's document, someone's answer, and I'm not asking for that. I'm just saying that clearly there's a potential that that Angie Gothert's opponent signed such a commitment and is now not following that commitment. You know, it's politics. Could people's views change from when they did the survey in February or March to now? Possibly. I mean, George Herbert Walker Bush, for all intents and purposes, when you take Ross Perot out, for all intents and purposes, George Herbert Walker Bush lost re-election in 1992 because of read my lips, no new taxes, right? So, again, it's not a binding document that you can enforce, but at the same time, I think it talks more about the character of the person. Maybe he doesn't remember signing it. Possible. But I just wanted to clear it up because in some of the exchange that I've seen on Facebook, it's been said, and I've corrected it on Facebook, that I single-handedly had someone on the ballot that was a known Democrat. And that's just not true. I appreciate the fact that Angie Gothert's former opponent, the one that got beat, believes that I have the power to cast 4 votes instead of just 1. I serve with some very strong conservative people. If you know Anderson County Mayor Terry Frank, she's been the Anderson County Mayor for quite some time. She's a strong, principled, conservative leader. If you know former Sheriff Tim Hutchison, I've known him personally since 1989 or 1990. Very principled, very conservative. If you know my colleague in District 6, Jane Chedester, she's very conservative, very principled, has served on the state executive committee for a long time. If you know Karen Brown, very conservative. She and her husband, Dr. Leonard Brown, very, very strong, conservative, principled people, have been huge backers of right to life and conservative causes. If you know Kent Morrell, Kent's relatively new to the world of politics. He ran 2 years ago, not only for the state executive committee, but he challenged the state senator in Senate District 7. and he was elected to the state executive committee. And I don't believe, and I believe that in the time that Kent Morrell and I have served together, that there's things that we don't agree on. Our personalities aren't always in sync with one another. But I believe that Kent believes what he believes. I believe he stands by what he believes. And I have no problem serving across the table and having conversations that we can agree or disagree on. And when we disagree, we can disagree without being disagreeable. And so I serve. I'm one of 6 that serve Knox County for the state executive committee. We're voted for by the Republican primary voters every 4 years. As far as me, my record is pretty clear. I served on the school board for 4 years. I've served as the Knox County Republican Party chairman. Led the party from 2005 to 2007 in an era when the Supreme Court decided after the filing deadline that our term limits weren't in effect. And then we had to go through the process of getting all those people reelected, and we did. And then we had to then, toward the end of my term, appoint folks, and then a new chairman came in, and then we've moved on from all of that now, right? So I think my record speaks clear. I'm not going to say that, first of all, I'm not the type of person that classifies myself one way or another, because everybody's got their opinion. They either like me or they don't. End of the day, I can tell you that when I come to a decision, I've come to a decision after I've looked at all the issues, after I've looked at all the sides. For most of my adult life, occasionally I'll hear that I'm an overthinker. And yes, I'm an overthinker. Probably one of the greater compliments that I ever received was about midway through my term on the school board. Superintendent that he and I didn't necessarily jive, but he told me one day that he'd always told his staff that if Brian Hornback asks you a question, answer it honestly, because he's already knows the answer. And so, yes, I'm an overthinker. Yes, I look at an issue and I look at it from a 360 view, or at least try to. I come to that decision after weighing all the possible options, and then we move forward. That's me. And so, the blog has been in operation since 2004. It started as my term on school board was ending, and I was able, the Knox County Republican Party allowed me to continue the blog while I was chairman. And so I've continued to do the blog. It's a news blog. We are in a desolate we're in a desert situation of news in this Tennessee Valley. The Knoxville News Sentinel is not the newspaper that once was. It's just a reverb of the USA Today, and so political news isn't that popular, and you can't always get all sides. So I still believe that the reason that my blog has been able to sustain itself for 20 years. And remember, I started in 2004, but no ads began until 2013. And so I did it for almost 10 years, for almost half the life of the blog so far, without any ads. But the blog exists to inform people. And that's what I wanted this episode, this 167th episode of the Brian Hornback Experience, to explain, is to explain my position, explain what's going on out there. Now, there's some other folks that are posting on Facebook. about their personal friendships, and you can't stop that. But if another candidate goes out and publicly says to vote for this other party member, then that's wrong. Okay, so I'll end it with that. Thank y'all for tuning in to 167th. I know it's been a while. I don't know where y'all been. It's me. I'm the one that hasn't been around. I'm the one that's not been giving you enough of these. So we're going to try to stop that. Kaz has been on my Kaz picture back here, my Kaz Walker picture back here. Kaz has been reminding me that, and Kaz is dead, so y'all be nice. Been reminding me that I need to do this a little more often. So I got to make time in the schedule and get these things done. So look for us to really get heated back up July the 8th. That's the Monday after the 4th of July. And we'll get busy on July the 12th stuff, and then we'll see what happens on August the 1st. August the 1st, we'll know who our new county elected officials are going to be. They'll all get sworn in on September 1st. After Thursday, August the 1st, our state representatives, our state senator in District 6, the Republican and Democrat nominees will be decided on Thursday, August the 1st, and then we'll go into November. And this Thursday, the 27th of June, is the first presidential debate between Donald J. Trump and Joe Biden. So I'm sure after we get through the Republican convention in mid-July and then the Democrat convention in August, we'll have lots and lots of things to talk about. So I hope you've enjoyed this little bit of break. But just know we're coming, and we're coming from the Old Forge Distilling Podcast Studios. When you're up in Pigeon Forge, stop by my friends at Old Forge Distilling. If you can drink and drink responsibly, stop by and see my friends at Old Forge Distilling. They've got a new whiskey line out called Iron Mountain Whiskey, and they've done some other things. The Rock and Rye is gone now. My understanding, they may still have one or two flavors of that left. But they're doing some recalibrations, just making things better at the Old Forge Distilling in Pigeon Forge. You can also pick up most of their moonshine and their whiskeys at liquor stores all around Tennessee and the Southeast. So be sure and check out Old Forge Distilling. If you have the addiction of alcoholism, I ask that you please refrain and don't go down that trail. That's hurt too many families, too many people. But if you can drink and drink responsibly, then I encourage you to visit my friends at Old Forge Distilling in Pigeon Forge and or your local liquor store. And again, if for some reason you can't or you just are not a drinker, then I respect that, and I want you first and foremost to be safe and to stay around for your family, yourself, and for the Brian Hornback Experience, okay? Y'all have a great night. We'll see you real soon.